And we have to look at this more subtle energy, this more subtle reality that we're going through. And we can attain, by the way, to perceive that. We're told that in Oahspe, but also through our own practice we can discover this. And we're told in Oahspe, if you look in the Oahspe Standard Edition, which has the Book of Knowledge in it, that came with Oahspe, and we can note that Te was touched on the forehead, meaning the highest expression of man, and his suis sense was open. While the suis sense perceives spiritual things, perceives atmospherian things, which is where our spirit first goes when we lose our corporeal body, and where we go out at night during our dreams and so forth. We can enter into the atmospherian realm, an atmospherian realm or two, or many. Beyond those, then, is etheria, more rarefied yet. And etheria is 100% motion, and corporea is absolutely no motion. And it's the unseen that impels and propels corporea. So it's very important that we understand the unseen reality, and we can attain to that, but we can't see it with the suis sight. With the sight of the suis, we can perceive atmospheria, which is in density. It's midway between corporea, which is, that's making that noise that we just heard right there. That's corporea, and atmospheria is midway between that and etheria in density and in motion. And so etheria and ethi can move right through corporea and right through atmospheria without even corporeans, such as we are, without even our being aware of it. But we can attain to becoming aware of it. And even atmospherians, until they attain to it, may not be aware of ethi. But we can attain to this, and that's called the ethi sense after the suis sense, but the suis sense comes first. The prophet of Jehovah wants to attain to develop the ethi sense to perceive where we're going, and so knowing where we're going and the conditions that man is coming upon, then it becomes easier to weigh out all these different things that are happening. If the social order characteristic is going one way and another characteristic is going another way and so forth, and how are they all going to play out. One of the tools that the prophet of Jehovah uses is called Oahspe. Now Oahspe is the daughter of Jehovah. Another name for Oahspe is signs of the times. But Oahspe, as daughter of Jehovah, now Oahspe is called the daughter of Jehovah because Oahspe is an entity, inasmuch as Oahspe has a function to perform and some intelligence, we might say, to perform that function. And what is the function of Oahspe? Well, Oahspe, etymologically speaking, is, in terms of the Panic language, in terms of the soul language, is S is the spirit, or the spirit realm, and Fome is wind, and the A at the end, because it's E-S-F-O-M-A, the A at the end means everywhere, or collectively. And so what that means is that when S collectively moves in a direction, a wake is created from that movement. And lesser things flow into that, in that wake, and flow along with it. Wake. And what I mean by lesser things is that, well, we're talking one thing, corporea, inasmuch as corporea and the vortexia is moved, can be moved by these subtler currents. And so if we go whoosh like that with some physical thing, we know that it creates a draft behind it, and that's what we're calling the wake, and things will tend to move in toward behind into that wake. You can see this like on a motorboat across a lake, a still lake, or it creates waves and troughs and so forth. But the movement itself creates a in terms of what Oahspe says, it would create an M-vortexian field. M-vortexian field just means a lesser concentration of vortexia. And that's all vortexia does, vortexia always pushes. Vortexia never pulls. It may seem like a pull, but it's not. It's always a push. Vortexia always moves from the concentrated to the less concentrated, from a concentrated point to a less concentrated field. And it will move in that direction. Always want to move toward the M-vortexian field. And we can read about this in Cosmogony and Prophecy, in that chapter that's, in that book that's within the larger encompassing book of Oahspe. And vortexia is essentially energy, what we call energy and force. And it manifests differently through different things. And so it can manifest as electricity, fire, heat, same things that we say energy manifests as. And so that's just sort of like Corporea's current term for it. We don't want to get into a discourse about science, but we're talking about how vortexia is always a push. And so what we call gravity is not really a pull as is conceived by the Newtonians and later than the Einsteinians and all that. But it's not really a pull, but it's a push. And it's a push inward by the vortex, which is more rarefied and pushes in. It's always a push, always pushes in toward the center. And then when it hits the center, it wants to escape somewhere. And where it escapes, well, because it's spinning, and it's the spinning, by the way, this vortex is the spinning. It's the spinning that causes the inward movement toward the center. Because it's spinning, that means that there's an axis. And that axis, there's less force there, or less concentration. It's M-vortexia with respect to that which is coming in. So at the poles, at the north and south poles, that's where the energy wants to tend to go toward, but more toward the North Pole. And that creates the northern lights as it escapes in the aurora borealis, and the borealis in the southern hemisphere, at the southern pole. Vortexia pushes, it's always pushing. It's the male, it's the masculine. And Corpor is masculine. Corpor is the son of Jehovah. And so vortexia is essentially connected with corporea. But opposite of that is the S, is the unseen. And the unseen, the S, the more rarefied, and with the ethi, actually has a draw. That has a pull. It draws. Spirit draws in, draws forward. This draw, this pull, is very important insofar as man's development is concerned, because those who are up we have a lower foundation and upper foundation. Those who are up in the upper foundation can use that draw to help induce those at the bottom to rise up. Recall in one of our earlier videos when we talked about the tablet of Hayai, the tree of life, and we had the upward pointing heart in that tablet. And that had to do with transcending corporea. And it's the draw up here, the Om, if you will, the feminine, it draws the S, it draws upward, it induces upward. When S moves, there is a pull or a draw behind it, an actual draw. Yes, there may also be an M-vortexian field behind it which draws corporea into it, but it will also, more importantly, draw S toward it.